Hey everyone, welcome back to the Road to 2000 series. This is episode 22. So in the last week, I've played like quite a few rapid games, probably about six or seven, and yeah, I seem to be just sort of winning one, losing one type situation. I'm sort of hovering around the 1900 mark. Um, but what I thought I'd do in this episode, I picked out two games that I played that feature this opening called the G3 Vienna, which I don't think I've spoken about before on this channel. So yeah, I thought I'd show those two games. I got a pretty good position out of the opening. Yeah, so let's get stuck into those games. Uh, okay, so both of them I had the white pieces. The first game was against this 1942 opponent. And I play e4, and my opponent played e5. Let me just make sure this is working. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, surprisingly, like e4, e5 is pretty uncommon. I feel like I face a lot of the Caricans, a lot of the French, a lot of the Sicilian, occasionally the Scandinavian. Yeah, I mean, e5 I'd say is probably the fourth most common move. So I don't know why, but for some reason it's not super popular at the moment. But my opponent played e5, and I played this knight c3 move, which is called the Vienna. Um, I think I started playing this just because I watched like Gotham Chess. A couple of years ago, I got back into chess, and got back into Gotham. Got exposed to Gotham, and he sort of recommended this Vienna. Um, and yeah, I mean, what my opponent played was knight f6, which is a very common move. And knight f6 invites the Vienna gambit, which is f4, which is not what I played. But this is what I used to play, f4. And the idea of f4 is that if they take, like, that's a big mistake. You've got e5. The knight, like, doesn't have any squares to go to forwards, so it has to go back to g8, and then you get the knight out and just get like a really quick development, and that's really good. But eventually, like, I started getting to the level where people were playing the best response to f4, which is d5. Um, Not a very obvious move if you don't know the theory. And yeah, I just found this like quite difficult to play with white. Like, I think often goes take, knight f3. I think it's bishop d5, sort of encouraging d4, and then the bishop slides to b4, and you sort of get this position, which is, pretty even, I think, but I didn't like these positions with white. So eventually I sort of decided that f4 is kind of a trick move, like it works at low rating, but if your opponent knows the best move, which is d5, it's not that great, I didn't find, for white. Um, so I was sort of thinking like what I should do against e4, e5, like whether I should just give up the Vienna. But I so I had a I've been having a few lessons with a coach, and he suggested that I look into this like g3 Vienna move, um, which looks really like the idea of g3 is to fianchetto the bishop and just not play f4, or at least like delay f4. And okay, so that's what I played in this game. But at first glance, like g3 looks like a bit of a strange move, because if you fianchetto the bishop, like let's say black develops or something, you fianchetto the bishop is just staring into this e4 pawn. So it looks a bit odd. At least, that's what I thought when I first saw it. Um, but the idea of fianchettoing the bishop is that you want to eventually play either f4 or even d4. So right now this bishop is sort of stuck, but you've got two quite nice levers, I would think of it, like d4 and f4, to unlock this bishop. So if you imagine, f4 is played and they take, or something like that, and eventually you can push this pawn, and that really unlocks the bishop. So this is sort of like a bit stuck at the moment, and f4 and d4 have the capacity to sort of make this unstuck, basically. So, yeah, the idea of bishop g3, I think, is that it's sort of, you want to play f4 eventually, but you want to build up to it. It's a bit of a slower, more systematic kind of setup where, yeah, you eventually build to f4 rather than playing it right away. Okay, so that's what I play now. I play g3. My opponent played c5, which is a bit unusual. I think normally they just develop the knight or get the bishop out, but I just follow through with my sort of system, which is bishop g2, knight e2, castle, eventually play f4. Okay, my opponent played knight c6. I sort of autopilot these first few moves. My knight belongs here, so that when I play f4, I can take with the knight, and that's quite a nice square for the knight. Often, these two knights sort of work together to control d5. My opponent plays bishop e7. I don't think they played this in the most critical way. Normally, the bishop goes here to c5, and if you imagine after I've castled, c5 pins the f pawn, so it takes a bit more work to play f4. Like sometimes you go after that dark squared bishop with the knight, or you play h3 and tuck the king away to h2 and then play f4. So yeah, I don't think bishop e7 is sort of too standard. I castle, they play a6. I play h3. Maybe I could go for f4 straight away here. I was sort of thinking maybe just, there's no rush, like tuck the king away to safety, then play f4, but maybe I could have just played f4 straight away. So h3, they play b5, so they're starting to get really aggressive here, but yeah, if this bishop ever opens up, you can see it's going to become, really good along this diagonal. So I do play f4, and my opponent plays bishop b7. Okay, that sort of counters, attempting to counter this bishop a little bit. Okay, but now I sort of have some natural looking, forward moves. Yeah, I think knight d5, like if my opponent takes, I take back, the knight has to sort of go backwards, I suppose. If they come, maybe they can come forward, but yeah, it's sort of, they get a bit stranded on the edge of the board, perhaps with b3, and we get the bishop on this diagonal. So, yeah, I didn't think taking was probably be the best move. Okay, my opponent played d6. I played d3. They jump in with the knight. I decide to take this bishop. My opponent takes my knight with check. I take with the queen. They take with the queen. And now I take on e5, which is another idea of the Vienna to open up the f-file. And yes, my bishop is sort of locked in at the moment, but after I take on e5, my opponent takes back and I pin this knight. This is like very good already for white, I think. Like if I can click on the analysis. Yeah, it's already +1 for white. So yeah, I mean I'm threatening to just take eventually, or even now. And then just pile up on that weakness. My bishop is a little bit stuck, but yeah, black's not castled. They've pushed a lot of pawns in front of their queen side. This is a good position for white. Okay, my opponent plays h6. I take, because if I sort of drop back here, they're going to trap my bishop. And I suppose if I come back here, it sort of relieves a bit of pressure. I wanted to take anyway, just to double these pawns, and then I play queen f2, just piling up on that pawn. Yeah, so basically, like, this was a bit of an unusual G3 Vienna, but I still think it was kind of thematic in that the F file opened up. So one idea is for the bishop on the long diagonal to open up. Another idea is the F file opening up. Unfortunately, I feel like from this point on, I really don't play this very well. My opponent plays rook g8, attacking this pawn. Yeah, and I think I just spent way too long here and ended up making the wrong decision. Like, I can take this pawn immediately, but then they take this pawn. I thought that, like, what did I think? Like, if I played king h2, which is the top computer move, maybe my opponent can just play rook g6, and, you know, I'm not winning back this pawn, at least right away. And then I thought they might castle and bring the other rook here, and then, like, this g3 pawn is a bit of a weakness. So I end up taking this pawn on f6, which wasn't the best move, but still there's an advantage for white. My opponent takes on g3, I take on h6, and yeah, I'm already down to 4 minutes, which is, this time management thing is a bit of a problem for me. Okay, but anyway, my opponent comes back with rook g6. I go to h7, just putting a bit of pressure on this pawn, like if they're preventing them from castling, for example. And now my opponent plays queen g5, threatening checkmate, but sort of blundering this check, I suppose. So I take the pawn with check, and the king moves, and then I play just rook f2, defending checkmate. The king moves again, and I thought about some of these checks, but I didn't like, yeah, I mean, I obviously didn't see this, and then going here and then taking on c5, which is a pretty simple pattern, but I just thought maybe play it safe and trade queens. Not the best move, but still big advantage for white. And after we trade queens, the rook comes up. I play king h2, which is not the best move. Sorry, the king comes up. I play king h2. And after rook g8, I just get in a bit of a tangle here. Like, you know, okay, my bishop's hanging. I didn't really want to move the rook back to f2. Okay, bishop f3 is one of the top moves, so that looks like it's okay. But yeah, now king d6 comes. I bring the other rook to f1, and now there's bishop c8. And yeah, even though I'm up 2 pawns and this is completely winning, I have released the pressure a little bit for sure. Okay, I play rook h5, which was the best move, just defending this pawn, because if I moved somewhere else, then this is going to be a big threat, going after this pawn, I suppose. Okay, rook h5, the rook comes in. I played bishop h1. Yeah, and here I'm down to 38 seconds, and basically, yeah, I end up losing this game. I end up just, blundering quite badly at the end. Like, I blunder my rook and then I blunder my bishop. So kind of a tough one to review. I think probably the main takeaway here is just time management. Yeah, even though, I mean, I spent a lot of time in the opening and I got a good advantage out of the opening. So it's tough to know, how bad that time was really spent. But yeah, I suppose my opponent plays well just to move really fast and keep me under pressure. And they've got this nice file here. Should be completely winning. I'm up 2 pawns. I've got an outside H pawn. Yeah, it was a long game. Basically, I can go through it quickly. I even get up to a massive advantage, and okay, I tuck my king away. Eventually, I thought I was just going to lose this pawn, which I think is a fine decision. Give a check, blocks. And yeah, after a few more moves, I even get up to plus 5 with the top computer move. So big let off this game for sure. We keep going a bit, keep going. That was the first blunder. I just blundered my rook there. And then, yeah, on the very next move, I blunder my bishop with bishop h3. So, yeah, just probably too much of the game spent at low time and end up blundering. But, yes, the opening was still really good, I think. And I think, it was nice to... I think after this opening of the f-file and bishop g5, this is just a really good position for white. So probably the main takeaway here is just time management. Okay, next game was also... The next game I wanted to show was also a Vienna, a g3 Vienna. This one, I think, was more standard, I believe. So we've got e4, e5. It was... Okay, knight c3 is the normal move. We've got knight c6 is also a move that black can play. I used to play this bishop c4 move here. And if black copies white here, there's like a really sort of sharp variation involving queen g4. But even now, even after knight c6, I still play this g3 line. Okay, bishop c5, I play bishop g2. We get the knight out, I play knight e2. And, okay, now we get d6, castles, and now bishop g4. Okay, and bishop g4 is normally a move I don't mind seeing because I kind of want to play h3 anyway in a lot of these lines to tuck my king away on h2. So I do play h3 and the bishop drops back to h5. Now, in this position, okay, in g3 Viennas, often playing g4 is not a bad idea, and it's not a bad idea for a couple of reasons. First of all, let's say you play g4 and the bishop goes back to g6. It's not what happened in the game, but it's something that can happen. Then we can get this knight to g3 and into f5. That's one idea. And if black ever takes that knight, so that knight on f5 is very good, firstly. Attacks the g7 square. It's a bit of a beast, actually. If black ever takes the knight, we've got a couple of options. The first option is to take with the e-pawn, which opens up our bishop. So that's quite nice. The second idea is to take with the g-pawn and shift our king to h2 and attack down the g-file. So for example, I'll make some random moves. Takes, and something like king h2, bishop f3, and the rook coming to the g-file can be very strong. The other reason that g4 can be a good move is because, okay, for now we're pinned, but it allows f4 to come with a bit of a threat, which is f5. So if we can get in f4, and let's say black plays h6, and we play f5, that bishop has to go back here, and it's sort of stuck forever. So that's quite a good setup. And if we play f4 and they take, then we get a nice knight to f4, and we've got some lingering threats here of e5 with the bishop opening up. I know that's all a little bit theoretical and you have to work out if it all works concretely, but G4 is often kind of, even though you're pushing pawns in front of the king, it's often a good move. However, in this position, what I needed to do first was first attack the bishop on c5. I needed to play knight a4, which is a common move in the g3 Vienna, just going after this bishop, because the bishop has no squares. If it goes to b4, we attack it, drops back to a5, we attack it again. We can always trade off this bishop wherever it goes, which is nice. And once the bishop's traded off, then we can play g4, and black has to go back here, and yeah, nice position for white. We got the same sort of ideas. What happened in the game was I played g4, and the reason, and black took, which is black sacrificed a piece for these two pawns, and I've faced this before, and it's not very scary for white, but it's better. I needed to get this bishop off first, apparently. There's a line here where black can play very precisely and sort of hold to equality. But whereas if I got the bishop off first, this sacrifice is just plain bad for black. However, even with the bishop on, black has to play very accurately to sort of get equality here. Okay, so they did sacrifice this piece. I play bishop h3, queen h4. We trade here. I play king h2. And here black played queen h4 check, which already the advantage is gone. It's plus 1.5 for white. Black had to play knight d4, and f5 is also not too bad. Okay, but we've got queen h4. I move the king to g2. It's important to note that before, I can't block with the knight here. That would be a big blunder because I can just black can just take, making use of the pin. So I had to sort of rejig my king to g2. We've got castles. I play knight g3. And after f5, this is plus 2.6 to white after rook h1, which is what I played. Yeah, and I thought if black just moved back, we've got queen h5 coming in, big threats coming in here. Instead, black played queen f4, and I missed a pretty obvious, I think, winning move here, which is d4, attacking the queen and the bishop. Instead, I played f3. We've got takes with the knight, attacking the bishop. Bishop drops back, and I play d3. And yeah, this is just really good for white, plus 3.3. All my pieces are coming alive here. Black dropped back with the queen, but then I play knight g5, which attacks the queen and also attacks the h7 pawn. Black played queen d5, just putting pressure on that pawn. But now I can take this pawn here. And now black came in with knight d4, and there's quite a lot of pressure on the f3 pawn. But there is a mate in 3 here for white. So if you feel like a challenge, pause the video and try and find the mate in 3 for white. Okay, so the move is rook h8 check. Only move for black is to take the rook. Then we play queen h1 check. Only move for black is king g8, and then queen h7 is checkmate. So that was a nice mate in 3. I missed that. Instead, I played the second best move, which is queen h1, which threatens checkmate. And yeah, black doesn't have time to take this pawn with either the knight or the rook, because then rook h8 would be checkmate. So they have to play g6, but then, yeah, there's all sorts of checkmates coming in here. Rook h1 is a good enough starting move. King g7, queen h7. We've got king f6. I play knight e4 check. The king comes in to f5, and then queen h3 is checkmate, which is a nice checkmate with, you know, all these squares covered. The knight's covering these two squares, and yeah, sort of 5 pieces involved in that checkmate. Yeah, so I guess this one, it was more standard in the sense that the bishop arrived on c5, which is where it normally needs to be. It was not super standard in that black sacrificed a piece here. Normally if like black drops back here, I think... See, now I've got to be a bit careful with this move because there's 2 attackers on that pawn, but maybe we play d3. And if black doesn't play a5 or a6, which is sort of the critical move, let's say they castle, then we get in knight a4, bishop here, let's say, or bishop here. We can sort of start kicking the bishop around, drops back, we trade the bishop, and yeah, now we've got some of the normal ideas. F4, knight g3 are two of the top 3 moves. So, playing on those themes that I mentioned before. So yes, those were my 2 games with the G3 Vienna. Both of them big advantage out of the opening. First one I ended up blundering under a bit of time pressure, and this one managed to get the win. Yeah, but that was my... those were the 2 games I wanted to show. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all next time.